right, sports fans, welcome to another edition of the DC Sports Huddle. It is sponsored by MGM National Harbor. For the latest in Washington sports, visit MGM National Harbor and experience a sports fan's paradise, and that is exactly where Washington Commanders fans are after the big upset victory in Philadelphia. I am Rob Woodfork and feeling really good about my football acumen based on our last episode. I'll delve into that. This is Dave Preston right here, and one George Wallace, who is laughing at me. I don't know why you're laughing at me, man. I mean, we sat up here. No, we gave the people the blueprint for how they were going to win.
Okay, but you've told everybody in the last 24 hours.
We didn't predict they were going to win. We didn't have the strength of conviction in that.
Right.
But we said exactly how they were going to do it, and that's exactly what they did. So, Ron Rivera, keep calling me.
I think even more important, after going 1-9 in Monday Night Football games against the spread through the first 9 weeks, I've finally covered. So 2-9 with a bullet, my friends.
Man, you guys that's pretty good.
Yeah, making things happen.
Yeah, I didn't bet anything because I don't have discretionary income like that.
It's not a problem. What is it?
It's not a what?
Problem.
It's not
gambling.
It's not gambling if you have a system.
That's it, yeah.
Well, Washington certainly had a system on Monday nights. They and look, we talked about this on Monday night. It looked Gibbsian. It looked like a Joe Gibbs sort of game. You controlled the clock, you ran the ball, you took the game basically out of the quarterback's hands almost entirely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do we think? This is Taylor Heinicke's word, not mine. They talked a lot about having an identity now. So is this something that we can expect to see from them on a week-to-week basis?
I think that's what they want to do. I think it just depends on matchups. They knew they could do that last night, and they had to. I mean, it's one thing to say, we got to run the football. And there's nothing other say doing it, right?
Right.
I mean, and they did it. I mean, 17 minutes, 38 seconds time possession in the first half. That's the most in franchise history.
The difference, that was... They had it 17 minutes and change more.
Oh,
Right.
Different in franchise history.
To have it that long is impressive, but then to have that be the differerence is mind-boggling.
It's unbelievable. And the fact that they were able to do it, and Ron Rivera said, look, the best way to keep their best player off the field is to contain their best player, don't let him on the field.
Yeah.
And they did that last night. And the third down conversions were the thing. 12 third down conversions, most against the Eagles since 79.
Yeah.
And a ton of those were in the first half too. And the ones that were not, they settled for a field goal. The third down that does not count as a conversion, they kicked a field goal to end the first half. And then another one they went for it on fourth down. So with the exception of the very first third down attempt of the night, they were spot on in the first half. And you can't.
And they were great quality throws too, not just third and shorts. I mean, they were. I mean,
finding Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin was huge on third down. Yeah. I look at the conversion chart. TH to TMC, TH to TMC, TH to TMC.
And I love
again
Taylor,
and again.
I love TH when he says when you pay a guy like that, you got to use him. And I think that is one thing that people were, not complaining about, but they were curious about why now. The targets for Terry from Carson Wentz. We weren't seeing those till late in the first half. Third quarter. That's inexcusable. Taylor's finding him. He's getting open. And he tries to force a couple of them, but he is putting his number one receiver to work, and it's helping. It's paying off.
Guys, I'm going to say this. I think it's easily, and I looked. I don't have as much paper in front of me as you do, but I did look up last night because it's easy to be prisoner of the moment and say, greatest win of the Rivera era or biggest win since. This is their biggest win since the 2012 season finale, the Dallas game Sunday night to win the NFC East. This is their biggest win since then.
Fair enough. I think so. I think you're right.
And they did win a division title in between, but like everybody else in the NFC East was bad that year, so it's hard to and they blew that one game in Dallas and all of that. So
I'll go with that.
This is easily. Right. I don't even think there's a close second. I don't think it's up for debate. This is the biggest win of the Rivera era, but also this is their biggest win in 10 years.
Well, if you're going to get pushy about it, and there's going to be a debate about it,
I'm going to get assertive.
But I think up until last night, it was the win over Pittsburgh during the pandemic when nobody was there when they were 11-0. The Tampa game, I think, is big last year for. I'm thinking Rivera era.
Right. Yeah.
And then, what was the fourth one?
I would say, well, the Philly game that opened the era where they trailed and then they came back and they helped end the Carson Wentz.
But also but also it's fair to point out that, and oh, by the way, this stat, Ron Rivera is the second coach in the Super Bowl era to knock off a team that's 8-0 or better twice in his career, multiple times.
That's
so
a pretty
they
good
did
stat.
it. That is a great stat.
Yeah.
But also, and you mentioned the game in which they beat the 11-0 Steelers. I put a big asterisk on that.
It's like a Wednesday night.
It was a Monday afternoon game that felt like a Wednesday.
Yes.
They played the previous Wednesday. It was
what
during the
happened
COVID year. It was a mess.
It was the
It was a
COVID
mess.
year.
Yeah.
The Steelers had played on a Wednesday. They had a short
That's what
week.
it
They
was.
came back.
That's
So
what it was. That's what
if
it was.
Washington didn't win that, that's
what it was,
borderline a fireable offense. But it's still, look, a win is a win. You take them how you take them. But it doesn't mean a lot if they don't go beat the Houston Texans.
No, it doesn't. And there's still a lot of things.
And it's a short week, and all of that.
And look,
but
you take the win. Yes, you do. But you're also, for the first time in I don't know how long, every single break went Washington's way. From calls to the fumble late in the game. My biggest thing is how you let the receiver get behind you when all they're going to do is go deep.
Yeah.
That shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And not taken away from them because it's happened to them multiple times.
Many times.
But there still are a lot of things that I think should concern the coaching staff because you play that game again in 2 weeks,
That should have been a blowout, the way that played out.
Right.
And
It
if
started.
in Heinicke with the YOLO balls, man, I need him to stop doing that.
And that's the other thing to your point. It's a 26-21 game. Forget that last touchdown.
Yeah.
And Philly's going down to possibly win the game. As much as it seemed like Washington dominated the game, it wasn't. Like Philly still had a really good chance.
Right, and that's the thing. They controlled the clock.
Yeah.
And I think we said this at one point on air, is that Washington was controlling everything. Like they were, like the first half, they dominated the time of possession. Like at one point, they had the ball for like 20 minutes and Philly had it for like 5.
Yeah.
And so when you do that, and then you're still trailing, they were down 14, I think 14-10.
14-10, yeah.
Even though
Yeah, 'cause
they
they
had
had the field goal,
outgained, they had twice as many yards. They held the ball like basically 3-1.
Yeah.
I mean, you should be dominating at that point. You
4
know?
turnovers, though, coming up huge
Yeah.
because 16 of their 32 points came from those
turnovers.
4
And
turnovers.
Philly had only 3 turnovers all year.
Right. And the first one led to a touchdown, second one led to a field goal. The one that I think that, even though it didn't lead to points, it allowed Washington to take over 2 minutes off the clock when there was under 6 to play, which I thought that really backed Philly up into a corner even more so.
And Tressway didn't punt. The first one was taken away, the roughing the pass. He didn't punt until the fourth quarter.
Talk about keeping your best player off the field. The Eagles kept the Commander's best player off the field, and it worked against them.
That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
I mean, you make a great point there. Now, going into Houston, I guess we're still, as of this taping, we have yet to hear from Ron Rivera, the Tuesday press conference, but he's supposed to make an announcement as to who's the quarterback moving forward. I don't
think he'll make an announcement today. That's my
and
call.
here's the thing, he doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to.
He
No.
doesn't have to.
No.
And furthermore, why is there even a debate? You have Heinicke.
You know why
Heinicke.
there's a debate.
You cannot put Carson Wentz back in.
What you cannot do is let Carson Wentz take 70% of the snaps. However that happens. So he needs to miss one more game. Figure 5 games.
I think if Wentz starts Sunday, I can't see how Ron Rivera keeps the locker room.
Yeah.
Because these guys are playing for Taylor Heinicke. They have a connection to him that they don't with Carson Wentz. And they're also enjoying success. 3 wins in 4 weeks after, even though, yes, Wentz was injured during the Chicago game, 12 points, and they were lucky to get 12. The offense was really on the skids before the quarterback change. That I think even without the injury, if they lose to the Bears that Thursday night, there's a quarterback change.
Yeah, but the thing is too, last week you blew a 10-point lead last week against the Vikings.
Yep.
The Colts game was just god awful. They shouldn't have won that game. Thanks for the one of your YOLO passes. I mean, the offense was terrible against a quarterback that had never taken a snap. So I get it, but I'm just trying to calm everybody and I do think you're going to see Carson Wentz. I hate to disappoint everybody, but you are going to see Carson Wentz again this year because of the investment, because of Because, I mean, the guy had $28 million. He's your quarterback. As long as he doesn't take 70% of the snaps, I don't care. Here's the other thing. Where do you, as a big discussion about this last night, where do you want to see this team? And moving forward, you're still going to be in that quarterback need, right? So you go 7-10, you're in the middle, you're outside of a big-time quarterback possibility in the draft.
6-8-3 doesn't even get you a quarterback.
And the other thing is Ron Rivera the coach you want to develop and draft and develop the new quarterback?
I mean, the one guy he drafted and developed, he won't touch now. So,
and for our viewers,
yes,
who is that? Cameron Jarrell Newton. I keep telling you guys. I keep telling you guys.
Is that his middle name?
Yeah.
Did you look it up for this show?
No, I knew it.
But maybe you made it up.
No,
it sounds
I do
made
that,
up.
but I didn't in this particular instance. But
I think Heinicke. I think Heinicke gets replaced if they lose to Houston. I think that he gets replaced if they lose to Atlanta. I think there is a short leash involved due to the fact that
that's fair.
The offense is not. It's not an offense in an offensive NFL where points you should be able to score in bunches. This offense does not score in bunches.
They only average
with
19.
Taylor Heinicke.
They only average 19 points.
Can you make the argument that they are winning? They're not winning because of Taylor.
Nope.
You can't make that argument?
No, I'm saying I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah,
I'm saying
going to
no,
make
you
the
can't.
case that they're not losing because Taylor's in there instead of Carson Wentz.
I'm going to say
That
this.
makes sense. Not that he's leading them to victory, but he's not making bad decisions like the high snap. If that's Carson Wentz, he falls on that. It's second and 30.
Carson doesn't get to it.
Yeah, right.
It gets returned.
Carson is still trying to figure out where the hell it is.
Exactly. So I think
I agree with that.
And I think that Taylor. I always talk in ceilings and floors. Taylor Heinicke has a low ceiling, but his floor for this offense and for what the Burgundy and Gold are trying to do with their limitations is much higher than what Carson Wentz has to offer.
But herein lies the problem, though. Taylor Heinicke is the guy who's getting the most out of the players around him.
Mm-hmm.
He's elevating the play of the players around him.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz doesn't do that. That's why Carson Wentz is on his third team in 3 years. So I feel like with Carson Wentz, like, he's a talented player.
Yeah.
And it's maddening. I feel like that's why he keeps getting these opportunities. But I don't know how unless Heinicke gets hurt, and that is another thing, is that he does get banged up because of the way he plays.
Does have that history,
Unless Heinicke gets hurt or just lays a huge turd on the field in one of these upcoming games, like you said, either against a winnable game in Houston or a winnable game against the Falcons, I don't know how you go back to Wentz. He didn't do anything that screams to you that we need to hurry up and get this guy back on the field.
But stranger things have happened. Coaches make decisions that boggle the mind sometimes. I do think that Heinicke, whether it's against Houston or Atlanta, he has one of those games. He's due for an absolute vomit all over himself day.
It's so funny that you think like things like last night that were happening. The fumble late in the game, the receiver drops the ball, the no face mask. People in the press box just like, that's the Taylor Heinicke horseshoe, even though he wasn't on the field at the time.
No.
That's just the way.
Right, and we talked about this last week. It's very Thibault-esque.
Yeah.
If you look at the games, if you're watching the games, if you look at the statistics, it makes zero sense as to why they're winning these games with him playing the way he's playing. But they're winning those games.
What's this?
And you don't want to
have it in front of
upset that
What do you got?
balance.
What is
What are we
the
looking
check
for?
your notepad? What is the Heinicke thing? 5 picks. You have it?
I don't
5
have
interceptions and a 60% completion, 5 interceptions the last week, something like that.
something like that.
Yeah. But to your point, like it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
statistically, it makes no sense.
no.
But he makes as you said, he makes the guys around him better.
and the fact that the players love playing with him.
Yeah.
He's an underdog. Everybody loves that story. Like
Right.
it is a great story. I mean, it's a story we've talked about for 3 years, continuously.
Right.
But it's a great story, and he finds himself in
he's
meaningful games.
Yeah.
He beat Brady last year. You go on that 4-game winning streak. You know, you bounce back after last week's blown lead, and you win on the road in Philadelphia.
And the question is, at what point do you feel that you have to go on from having him being the plucky underdog that everyone's excited about to being the starting quarterback that you hold to the standard of, all right, he has to do A, B, and C.
It's no longer the
this
fun, feel-good story.
It's not exactly.
I think we're past that. I think we're already past that
too. I agree.
I mean, this is his second year as a starter, and
the third year and the fourth with Scott Turner.
Yeah,
started over 20 games in his career, and once you get. This is not the 1970s or even the 80s where you allowed a guy to develop over 2-3 years. It's amazing that offenses were a lot simpler back then, but guys had a lot longer to learn the offense and get ready. Phil Simms, not a Hall of Fame quarterback, was not a full-time starter until I think year 6.
Yep.
Some of it due to injury, some of it due to ineffectiveness. Terry Bradshaw did not have what could be termed a really good year until year 6 as a starter. And as complex as offenses are now, we expect guys to know a lot more than they used to, a lot quicker.
Rippon was stashed on IR in this town for years.
Yeah. But the thing with Heinicke, we're talking about him like he's a young guy. He's 29. He's about to be 30. Right. So it's like, at this point, he is who he is, and we just have to accept him for
he's playing himself
what he
into
is.
a $6 or $7 million a year contract as a backup.
I think
his next deal.
I love him as a backup, but he needs to be a break glass in case of emergency sort of guy. If he's your starter on a week-to-week basis, that's problematic. And his record shows it. I mean, he's what, 10-9 now?
Yes. You asked the question. You asked the question.
I like that you answer me when I ask rhetorical questions.
As a lot of coaches say, you don't lose your job due to injury. Mm-hmm. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
I know.
So, do you go with the gut? I'm sick of what does the sheet say? All these analytic damn sheets.
Man. He's Wally pipped.
Okay.
He's Wally pipped. You can't play him again.
I don't think so. But I
don't disagree with you. I don't think Carson Wentz should see the field again this year. But I think he will.
You don't think
see
at all.
the field again. I wouldn't play him.
Even if
I'd bury him at the back of the bench. I'd have him serving water to the rest of the guys.
Third him, you'd make him inactive.
Man.
I think Wentz sees some action. I don't think he gets to the 70% threshold of snaps, but I do think he does see some action at some point. Whether it's in a relief role or whether it's all of a sudden they have to start him against the Giants because it's been a rough couple of weeks for the offense.
Yeah.
What about if? And here's the other thing, though. It's funny. They had 80 offensive plays last night.
Yeah.
How about
so the 70% of snaps thing. What? They keep getting.
If they keep
going 80
if they have games where they're having like 100 snaps,
they're gonna be on the sideline like, come on, nope, pull him out mid-game.
We talk about the 80 snaps, 80 plus snaps last night. The running game. Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson. When you look at their numbers, not a great yards per carry, but they gained just enough to move the chains and to keep possession of the football. Yeah. We've said that is how, the way that this team is constructed, that is how they are going to get to 8 or 9 or even 10 wins and make the playoffs, if that is, what they're going to do.
And that is why they drafted Brian Robinson.
Yeah.
What you saw last night.
Yeah.
Carrying dudes into the end zone.
And they needed a big
drives.
back because they have a bunch of guys who are just basically converted receivers in the backfield otherwise. Real quick, because I did make mention of this in the NFL recap. And
where can you find that?
It's on WTOP.com.
Is that on the living page?
No.
On the sports page?
Not anymore.
Oh, no.
Do we even have a living page anymore?
Don't know.
I think
so.
I think we
Okay. All right. Well, it's not on the living page. It's on the sports page. And I'm going to say this on the quarterback. If you've been paying attention to what's happening in Las Vegas, they are an unmitigated disaster. And
you lose to a guy that was on ESPN the week before.
Literally, there was a guy who was doing, that's like one of us going to go coach a team and then go in to win a game. That's how bad the Raiders, that's exactly
the same.
You've seen my Halloween costume where I dress up as a Terps, assistant wide receivers coach.
No, I blocked you.
I could have done that.
Seen it. But
now, if we were good, we'd have that pop up.
The Las Vegas Raiders are a train wreck.
Yeah.
And Derek Carr has come this close to saying some stuff the last couple of weeks. He was literally crying at the post-game press conference last week.
You think we could get him?
I think that's the next Washington. I think that's the next Washington quarterback because I don't think that the Raiders ownership is going to fire Josh McDaniels after just one season, and he's clearly the issue there. So. If it's between the coach and the quarterback's going to lose, and I think Derek Carr is going to be a Washington Commander next year You heard it here first.
He's 31. 31 years old. So
his name was mentioned this last offseason.
And he was really he had some good years here and there, and has basically, when you're a quarterback, you're often at the expense of your organization, how good your GM is, how stable your coaching is, the personnel around you. He's been betrayed by the lack of talent, by just the lack of adults in the room, the lack of having an owner who knows how to cut his hair. It's been a rough go. He would welcome any safe haven. He'd be a good fit here.
All right. First of all, he just said that he looks like Tommy Boy. Okay, that's funny. I like that. All right. So I'm saying it. Derek Carr, next quarterback of the Washington Commanders, but it's going to be Heinicke, or it should be Heinicke, the rest of the way. All right, guys. So we have to pivot to the breaking news.
Real fast. Hold on.
I think
you're saying.
I'm predicting. I'm putting it on record.
You're saying it should be the rest of the. What happens if they go because they're not going to win 8, 9, 10 games.
No.
You're not going to howl at any point.
If they let's say they go on a losing skid into the bye week. That's what, 3 games?
Correct.
3 games going into the bye.
Houston, Atlanta.
If you lose all 3 of those games,
Giants.
then you got to start thinking about it, because now you're probably out of the playoff picture. And that's the other thing that we didn't touch on, is that right now they are in
half game out.
I hate to say the controlling the destiny thing, but it's like, if you don't make the playoffs now, it's not because another team got hot or whatever. It's because you didn't handle your business.
Right.
So, to me, as long as you are still in the, look, they're trying to win. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but I'm not worried about draft picks and all of that stuff. I think that you go with Heinicke because Heinicke is clearly the thing that's working. It's flawed, but it works better than what you had when you had Wentz in there. I want to pivot, though, before we close out, to the Mystics. The breaking news as of this recording that Mike Thibault, the legendary, and I don't think I'm embellishing at all when I say he's the legendary Mystics coach, is stepping down. He's retiring, handing the keys off to a guy who has a conspicuously similar last name. So
it's even spelled the same.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Pronounced the same.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's a tough one.
So, guys, I think he's. Look, we talk about the Hall of Fame and who belongs in there and so forth. With his impact, not just on the Mystics, but on the game of basketball. Yeah. Dave, you've covered it pretty closely. Right. I would say he's a Hall of Famer, and certainly a big loss for the Mystics.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. What's unfortunate, too, is that they won the championship in 2019.
Yeah.
And then they were not in a rebuild mode, because when you win the championship and you've got Elena Deladon, you're not rebooting. So they basically played to win championships from there on out, as opposed to restocking. And the team got old in a hurry, unfortunately. Yeah. So it's unfortunate, much like we saw with the Caps, much like we saw with the Nats, that there was no repeat. And the whole COVID year also kind of blew things up a little bit, too. It's a shame that he didn't get to enjoy one more run, but what a fantastic run in Washington. Brought a championship, along the lines of Dick Motta, Joe Gibbs, Barry Trotz, Davey Martinez, Gary Williams, Brenda Freese, John Thompson Jr. Here is someone who brought a championship inside the Beltway, and Bruce Arena for DC United. Whoever was in charge of, I think it was Nick Jensen, or whoever was Murphy Jensen, the guy who was in charge of the Castles, DC Dynasty, 5 straight World Team Tennis titles, book that. I think that if he's not already in the Washington Sports Hall of Fame, Mike Thibault definitely should be. He's definitely been a great ambassador for the city and a great ambassador for the game. He's in his 70s, so I can understand why you'd want to step aside. He'll still be with the team as the general manager. His son will take over. That's kind of an interesting situation that I don't think I've ever seen in pro sports.
So you could fire his son.
The closest I've seen was back in the day, Weeb Ewbank retired as the New York Jets head coach, and Charlie Winter, who was his son-in-law, took over as head coach for a couple of years. Charlie Winter was not a winner and was fired after a few seasons. So we hope it's much better for Eric, but it's going to be a new era for the Wizards, or maybe for the Mystics, and they do have quite a bit of talent. So there is a chance for this new look Mystics team to make some noise in 2022.
That's right, and look, they've already got a very talented team, and then they have a high draft pick coming up in the draft. So I mean, they could be really good for a long time.
And they are. Eric Thibault has been with the team, so it's not like they're bringing in a new system. They're promoting from within, as most successful organizations do.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to see them open that up to a more diverse number of candidates, but you know, it's when you have a situation like you said, when you have a successful organization, when you have championship pedigree, then you know,
Hall of Famer. Most Hall of Famers do get to name their successor. Joe Gibbs got to name his successor.
How did that turn out?
I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that one. What'd you say?
Said, how did that turn out?
John Thompson got to name his successor.
Yeah, that wouldn't good either. That wouldn't good either.
So, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, he's been on the bench for a while. He's been in the organization. I mean, he's learned. You know, he's.
Yeah.
If it were.
He's not Jeff Saturdaying his way into it.
No. That's nowhere near the same thing. And also, let's stop with the Jeff Saturday stuff, people. Come on. I mean, that was the one team that he could beat in that game, whether it was home, away, whatever. But that was it.
Don't blame Jeff Saturday.
No, it's not. No, but my point is, don't blame Jeff Saturday, but let's also not give him credit because they won that game.
I'm just saying, everybody.
The Raiders lost that game.
I'm saying,
and they just happened to be on the other sideline.
Right.
The Jeff Saturday situation is like, he's going to do what everybody else did, take a shot at it. And I thought his quote was great. After 8 games, I may not know what the hell I'm doing. I can't do it. Fine, but he's going to try it.
That his attitude is okay going into it. I think the problem is he had an opportunity. It was revealed later that he had an opportunity to join the organization as an offensive line coach, as an assistant, and he would have then been in position to step up, and nobody would have said anything in that scenario.
True.
But the fact of the matter is, he selfishly, and I don't mean to say selfishly in a way that means that it's not in a bad way, but selfishly he wanted to spend time with his family. He wanted to have a better quality of life, and people should choose that. But you don't get to then skip ahead in the line to a head coaching job if that's the decision you make.
Because Peyton didn't want it.
Well. I still think Peyton the GM. I think Peyton would be more a GM than a coach.
That's probably true.
Because he can still get in his golf and commercials that way.
One thing I know that we're about ready to wrap up. We're short on time. Second to last college football week of the regular season. Lots of big games on tap, from Navy trying to upset UCF. Maryland has a tall task with number 2 Ohio State coming to town.
No, but George said they're going to win.
No, I said they're going to win last week.
Yeah. But
you said they're winning one of the big ones. This is the last big one.
Oh crap!
On a serious note, and I am guilty as anyone else, as much as anyone, for taking pot shots or passive aggressive stances towards the Kippies and Buffies who tailgate at Scott Stadium in Charlottesville. But our hearts go out to the University of Virginia football program, who lost 3 young men this past Sunday. And who knows if, as of this taping on Tuesday, who knows if they're going to play a non-conference game this Saturday against Coastal Carolina. I honestly, I can't imagine them playing this Saturday. I can't imagine them playing a week from Saturday against Virginia Tech, because it was who's for Hokies back in 2007 after the campus shooting in Blacksburg that was a part of the healing. And things will come full circle, hopefully, as we have Hokies for Who's, as Virginia Tech helps the University of Virginia campus and athletic program and football team recover from just an unbelievable tragedy. So our hearts go out to Charlottesville and Scott Stadium and University of Virginia, friends, family, and alums everywhere.
Absolutely. Yep. Well said. Nothing to add here. This is another edition of the DC Sports Huddle. It is sponsored by MGM National Harbor. For the latest in Washington sports, visit MGM National Harbor and experience a sports fan's paradise. I am Rob Woodfork. That is Dave Preston. That is George Wallace. And we are going to break the huddle.